Hello, dear viewer and listener, and people not viewing or listening, and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland. We are occasionally an Arsenal podcast and look at these three beauties. Well, look at two beauties and listen to the other beauty. We are an Arsenal podcast tonight. Right, firstly, I'd like to say hello to the wonderful Geoff Arsenal. Got a question for you, Geoff, right away. How are you coping? We've not been able to go on holiday every other week. I bet you're saving a fortune on passports, aren't you?
Daniel, I've got air in my lungs, mate, so that's the main thing at this time. You know, holidays, I've got plans, but nothing right imminent. But I was lucky that we got away when we did. Thank God for that.
I bet you could build a small extension with all your used passports, couldn't you?
Funny you should say that, Daniel. I've got an extension going on in the garden shortly.
Oh, not another kitchen. How many kitchens does one man need?
No, you only need one kitchen, Dan. Thank you.
Oh. Good. Snooker room, then.
You couldn't call it a playroom. I don't know.
Oh, just building rooms for the sake of it. What a life.
Don't go getting away with some kind of mansion here, though, mate. I promise you, it's not.
Okay, we know what's going on. Right. Next up, is it going to be Dark Josh or is it going to be Mystic Josh? Only Josh can tell us tonight. Which one should we expect? Who tonight will you be, Josh? Which one?
I'm going to go with Fun Josh.
Fun Josh. Yeah. Well, you don't have to host, so that makes it a lot easier for you, doesn't it?
It's so much easier. I can say something rude and someone else has to pick up the pieces.
And we do know when things are getting a little bit dry, you will lean backwards towards the drinks trolley, and we know when you start doing that, when someone needs to pull out an interesting topic.
Absolutely.
Lovely.
Yeah, other chocolate bars are available.
Oh, yes. That was so I made a list because someone was talking about why American chocolate tastes of sick and smells of sick, and he sent me a YouTube and I watched it. Apparently, it is the acid in the milk because they don't use proper milk. Anyway, we're not a chocolate podcast, although the amount of chocolate I consume, we could well soon be a chocolate podcast. Talking of chocolate. It's nothing to do with our next bit. It's the man John Cross can only ever dream of being, and it's our very own, soon-to-be, the Ornstein killer. Actually, no, I don't mean you're actually going to go and kill him. With Collins.
Oh. This will later be used in evidence in court. I can already sense it now. You've just given it away.
If Ornstein does die in a terrible accident or disappears... Simon had nothing to do with it. That was a slip of my tongue, and I've got half my teeth taken out, so that's a wrong one, isn't it? That's what happens when I try and write funny intros. I fail miserably on all three accounts. Are you all right though?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm on a laptop from the Wenger era though. I mean, my other laptop is on its last legs, and this is running off Windows 7. So that gives you an idea of how old it is. But I've managed to cure the technical difficulties to be here tonight, and I'm very glad to be back on the pod anyway.
It's lovely to have you on. It's that laptop is the equivalent of gaming on a Dreamcast. That's how old it is.
And terrible. What a great shirt sponsor they were.
Oh, don't you make a grown man weep. Right, Geoff, first of all, going to come to you. Do it in alphabetical order. What was your thoughts on the Man City game? We lost, I think it was 3-0 and 3-1 last season. So it has to be some kind of improvement, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. I think it was a definite improvement. I think our last couple of performances against, or the last one at least, against Man City, give us a little bit of hope that we was going to maybe go there and get something out of it. I did think we could get something out of it. We were capable of getting something out of it. But you know what? I seen it and I saw a lot of people on Twitter afterwards really, really having a go at Arteta for his tactics, etc., which I can understand. But I think the game, they would try to outcoach each other a little bit, and I don't think, but neither of the teams was at their best. But it was still a bit of a spectacle because I get interested in games like that when they're a little bit they're tricky. But the lineup was funny, wasn't it? With William playing as that false 9, I don't really know. I don't think that come off. But Arteta, he's trying things, and. The most important thing that I get from the game that we are defending a lot better than we used to, and I think it is a process that you have got to trust. He started at the back, and I think he's slowly going to move forward and try to get a bit more creativity. We do suffer. We have suffered going forward in a lot of these games. Our chance rates it's not up there with even some of the smaller teams. But the game itself, I was disappointed to come away losing it because we had a couple of chances. Even in the game when we won up there, the times that we was under so much pressure that we could always break away, and when we did break away, we had a couple of chances, but we took those chances. This is what happens when you play against those top teams. If you don't take the chances, and they rebound on you, the ball turns over and they go up the other end. They can score and they can hurt you. 1-0. I think it could have gone either way at 1-0. I don't know what the stats were like with regards to possession and stuff like that. I would imagine City had more of the possession, but I just think that's the way we were set up. And I think we're going to have to suffer it for another few months till he really, really does get the defence sorted out. And then I think you'll see. I remember when Pep went to Man City, a similar type of thing happened to him. They didn't start very well. You could see what he was trying to do when they was passing it out of the back and they was messing it up a lot of the time. I think we're going through that process now. I think we're much stronger at the back. We're much better in possession. It's just we need to just do a little bit more creatively going forward so we can score some goals or at least create some more chances, because I do think we've got forwards that can score, can put the goals away, but that may come in time. Josh, what do you reckon?
Well, I thought, with Willian playing where he did, it was... I'm not really sure what he was trying to achieve with it. Perhaps it was a bit more work rate than you'd get from Lacazette. And you'd say with Willian, he could kind of sit on someone like Rodri, but also push and press that back 2 or 3 that they'd set up with. But I think after about 35 minutes into the game, it just felt like we were playing well, but you could tell we weren't going to win. I don't know if anybody else got that kind of feeling that there was something missing with it. Whether or not it's our inability to get Aubameyang into the game, especially against these big sides. We saw he didn't have a shot on target against City, but he also failed to do that against Liverpool as well. I think it's possible. Well, I think it was too soon for Thomas Partey to come straight into the game, and the cameo he had, I think, was very, inspiring, that we can get more from him going forward. But I think that's the key thing is, if we're bringing Partey in, does that release the likes of Ceballos or Saka or even just Xhaka to link up better with Aubameyang, who was completely marked out of the game, completely nullified, and we had no other approach.
Do you think this was the right game to try playing a false 8, 9, 10, whatever the hell it was Willian was doing tonight, away at Man City? That I've just checked, they beat us 3-0 home and away last season. Not the game to do it, is it? If you want to do that, first game of the season against Fulham, see if it works there, or away at West Brom.
We've been doing it a little bit anyway with Lacazette in that position. You could argue he has been a false 9. He's been sitting very deep compared to, Aubameyang and then Pepe, who are running in front of him. Willian being there, I think he was asked to do a similar job to Lacazette, but we took the fact that he wouldn't be as prolific in front of goal for the fact that defensively his output is even better than Lacazette's, who's arguably, not, he's got a good work rate, but he's not the best in the squad. So that's where I kind of see it there. And, Arteta, I think since he's joined us, it's just under 20% of all of his league games have been against Liverpool or Man City. Well, I think no, it's just general games, not league games. I think it's cup games as well. So He's obviously getting bored. If 1 in 5 of your games is against Liverpool or Man City, you're going to try and just mix it up a little bit just to make something interesting for yourself.
He said that after the Carabao Cup game, actually, when they beat Liverpool away, and he was like, I was in the dressing room for sort of 2-3 minutes celebrating, and someone came in and goes, "Oh yeah, we've got Man City in the quarterfinals." Just like it's just his luck that he seems to be playing them, every other week. And I get what you're saying about the Willian thing, but we touched on it a bit before we came on air, how the record away the big six, as they're called, for Arsenal since January 2015. They've won 10 points away from home. So I think Arteta's rationale and reasoning was, we've got to try something different. And I think playing Willian there certainly did make Arsenal more solid defensively, more rigid, more organised, which weirdly I didn't think would be the case. But for me, it's a pretty clear trait of an Arteta team is that they're disciplined, they're organised, and they work hard. But it was actually a point Wenger made in one of his 50 or 60 interviews he's done since his book's come out, that Arteta's going to get to the point where he's made the team very defensively solid, they're really organised, but it's going to get to the point where he's going to have to sacrifice a bit of that to get the attacking intent that he wants in the team to make them more progressive going forward. I don't know if that has to be right away right now, because I think Arteta's done the right thing where he's made the team solid, made them good at the back. But I agree, I think this City game, it either highlighted we don't have that number 10, that creative player who can open up defences, or B, it highlighted how Arteta hasn't quite got the attack where it wants to be because he's focused so much on the defence, and maybe we'll have to wait 4 or 5 months until we see the attack at once. But I think there were positives from it. Normally go there and 3-4-0, and that game back in June, the first one of the restart was typical of that. But this time Arsenal were in the game. I agree with Geoff. At points when it was 1-0, they could have got back into it, shout for a penalty. So it was better than it was, but it's a reminder that Arsenal still aren't the finished product yet.
But looking at the role that Willian played in that game, if you were to play, like Josh was saying, he played the same role that Lacazette has been doing all season. We saw recently that Lacazette was the first one all the way back, defending, getting the ball, bringing the ball up the field, much like Sanchez used to do at times. But if you're going to play Willian in that position and have him on the field, and Willian's not really going to score from open play, is he? Like Lacazette's got 3 in 3 from the Premier League games. If the only way Willian's going to score from open play is from free kicks, and then we get a free kick and David Luiz decides to try and get a try from it. And that kind of thing makes people angry and makes people think that Arteta doesn't know what he's doing. But what do the people in the circles, the journalist circles, think of Arteta and how he's doing and how we are going to be going forward?
I think it's all massively positive around Arteta, and I think it's easy to forget, how much he's done and how far Arsenal have come. Arteta's been in this job 9-10 months now. He's had to cope with all the damage that was done in the previous regime, a bloated squad with a lot of dead wood, the whole football shutting down due to coronavirus. He's had coronavirus. And I think if you look at how far they've come from, December to where they are now, I think it's absolutely incredible, personally, in my opinion. And I think a lot of journalists share that view that Arteta's done a brilliant job. I think now we're seeing where the next stage it needs to be. I think he took the decision, clearly, to begin his rebuild from the back and to make Arsenal a solid team, which I didn't think he would actually do when he came in. I think everyone assumed because he was a disciple of Pep, he would come in and want to play teams off the park. But he's actually gone, made the team organised and solid. And now I think it is about that next phase of trying to make this into an attack that can be dangerous. Because where Arsenal look good, I think, is when they play teams who come onto them, they can get Aubameyang in behind, they can hit them on the counter. They struggle against those teams who make it tight, who sit up, shot. It's a low block defensive breakthrough. They still haven't found a way through that. And it's why they wanted to sign Aouar so badly this summer. It's why some fans moan that Ozil should be in the squad, which I'm sure we'll come on to. But that is the next stage for that. But I think as a 10 months of work of what Arteta's done, I really don't think you could have asked any more than what he's achieved.
Yes, it is going to take lots and lots of time. Geoff, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember a young man back in the olden days called Mr. Fukahanaj, a Japanese man, I think he is?
Yes.
He's in the chat.
Is he really? God bless him.
He's going to start his own YouTube channel. Isn't that good?
Is that right?
He is. It's going to be full of loveliness, and I keep trying to get him on. Geoff, tell FK to come and join us.
What one-man show? Was it going to be like the two Ronnies?
I don't know. I think it's all a bit of a top secret thing at the moment, so we need to get him on. Maybe come on next week. We've got Reverend Raj Patel is on next week.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh, and you are. aren't you?
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, lovely. Yeah, I'll be
Imagine if
that.
the wonderful listeners had FK Raj and you and me on. Oh, it'd be like old times. I'll have all my teeth back.
Like the old days. That's right.
Yes. What do you think about what Simon was saying about the building process of Arteta so far this season and into the future?
I think he's 100% right. You know, that's what I was saying. I just think it is a process that is. I think the first things first is to get the defence right. We've been asking for a good defence now for 10 years or more, haven't we? But Mesut Wenger, he wouldn't compromise. He just wanted to go full blast and outscore teams. And in modern day football, it's been proved that we can't do that no more. So I just think the way he's gone about it, Arteta, he's got to get some brownie points for sure. And you know, it's a process. We're just going to have to go through it. You know, I still think we can achieve this season, right? And I do think he'll get there over the next 2 months. I think you'll see something different, you know. But he'll get that defence settled in, and we'll move forward from there. And hopefully, he can create something from the players that we've got on board already. You know, a good coach can coach players. You know, he needs to just find. I mean, we've already seen with the defenders that we've got and what he's done to them, the likes of Mustafi and Holding, the way that they've come on a little bit. Mustafi, I mean, he was fine before he got injured. He transformed him. So if you could do that to a little bit to each and every one of the players, I do think that we've got to have some creative players in the squad at the moment. And, you know, we might find someone so we can save a few bob at the same time. But just trust the process. I think Simon's right.
Yeah, good point about the defence and stuff. Josh, for so many years, you look back at various segments of Arsenal history, maybe in blocks of 4 or 5 years. For ages, we had terrible goalkeepers. Now we've got a great goalkeeper. For ages, we couldn't defend. Now we've got a decent set of defenders. At other times, we had Giroud up front and we couldn't score goals. Now we've got Lacazette. We've got so many. And we've got the creativity in midfield. Do you think we're as close to having a really good starting 11 as we have been for, 10, 15 years, maybe?
Yeah, I'd say in the last decade or so, I think this is a very, very strong starting 11 we've got. I'm not entirely sure about in general, though, for like a squad. I still think we're missing some creativity. You know, it's all well and good smashing Fulham, but we've seen in the recent games that we're struggling to break teams down. Sheffield United, again, another well-organised team with a low block that we struggle to break through. And I think that's one of the big issues that I've seen with us is we're still not completely back with kind of creativity. So yeah, and I think you might want to mention Unique 79.
Do I? I was just telling Simon I've muted his thing because it was laptop, his clunky old Dreamcast. But Simon, unmute it whenever you need.
Thank you.
That's okay. Right, I'm going to go and have a look at. Unique 79 has stuffed some money down our pants. Unique, you lovely, lovely man. He says the question is, why does Arteta drop players after they have a good game? It is absolutely frustrating. Simon, unmute yourself and tell Unique why he does that, because I don't know.
I mean, I think Arteta we've seen is pretty open to rotating his team quite a lot, isn't he? I mean, I have to do every sort of before every game as part of my job. I have to do a sort of predicted 11 for the web, and trying to get that right every week is pretty difficult. But I think we're basically going to get to the point where we're pretty much going to have 2 11s. I think, because I was looking at the schedule this week, trying to plan out covering games and stuff like that, and it's basically 2 games a week right the way up until Boxing Day now. So I think it's basically going to be near enough, bar 2 or 3 players. It's going to be near enough 2 different 11s playing Thursday, Sunday, which is going to be needed to be done, and it's going to be interesting to see who is in each 11s. I mean, everyone remember last year, Bukayo Saka started in the Europa League 11, and now he's our number 7 on a 5-year contract sitting pretty. So, but I think that's going to be the norm now. I think we're basically going to have 2 different 11s, and we'll see. I mean, the one player which I think will be interesting in those 2 will be Lacazette, whether whether I think he'll be one who'll float in between. But I think him and Eddie is pretty close over who's going to be the number 9.
Josh, what do you think about that? Because I think Unique throwing money at us like a couple of dirty strippers kind of hindered your point. Possibly.
Yeah, no, that's no.
No.
In terms of who do I see? Yeah, to like his question, Arteta dropping players. I think it's more rotating them out, as Simon's alluded to. That how many games are coming thick and fast as well. You don't necessarily want to play someone like an Aubameyang against the likes of Dundalk or maybe Rapid Vienna. We might see him play in that game. But in general, I think he wants to try and get as many minutes into players' legs as possible at this point in the season, so that when they are then playing just a game every week, they've got some form and match sharpness about them. And I think that's where Saka will come into his own. A player like that, a player like Nketiah as well, when the Europa League really kicks off in the next week.
Owen says, don't do this in Dundalk, world beaters. Owen from the Gooner Crack, which is CRAIC, which is an Irish word meaning having a good time, from the Gooner Crack podcast. I'm going to be on his show this Thursday, but he is going to be on, I think, both of the Arsenal v Dundalk games, because he was saying on one of the podcasts that I've seen him on, because he's a bit of a dirty tart when it comes to podcasts, he'll go on any of them, that he is 5 minutes from there, and so many people in his area are really annoyed at the fact that they've got to can see the Arsenal coming to their local team and no one can go and see them. We've not had any people in Austria complain, apart from my mate Carl, who is actually a Gooner and lives in Austria. So there you go. Oh, here we go. Unique said, Danny, get the fireplace started. We miss it. It is. It's going in the background. It's covered in, I don't even know what they are. I think they could be Father's Day cards. I can't reach stuff when it's up high, so people put it there to annoy me, and they do because they're scumbags.
I think we've got about 5,000 fans there tomorrow, I think, for the Vienna game, I think, under Austrian rules, so that'll be quite good. But when that draw came out, I don't know about what you guys thought, but I was thinking just in non-COVID times how good a draw that would have been for, away trips. You got Vienna, which is a great city, then a trip to Molde and Scandinavia, which you'd never do, and then all the Irish fans in Ireland going there, and being with them before the game, after the game, all the pubs overflowing. I just thought, I know it's shit times anyway, but when you have a draw like that and you think of all those trips that the fans would have gone on, it makes it even worse, I think.
Yeah, I think the fact they're playing it at the Aviva Stadium as well.
Yeah, you'd have got so many fans there.
Yeah, it's true. That Dundalk game, that would be off the wall, wouldn't it? Brilliant.
Yeah, it is a shame. Geoff, you're no stranger to the odd away game in a foreign country. Which one of those would you be looking forward to have gone to? Would you have gone to any if you could have?
Vienna.
I have you down as an Austria man myself.
Vienna, that would have been a good one. We go skiing in Austria, but I've not been to Vienna. And Dundalk, mate, that would have been unmissable, especially being at the Aviva. I think we'd have all got tickets for it, it'd have been a good jolly up for the boys. So it's a shame, isn't it? It's a shame that when is the Dundalk game? What date is it?
December. It's the last game in December. I think it's about the 12th of December. So there's an outside chance you could get some fans there. You don't know, but
big stadium. So if you get 30% in or something like that, it would be it would be good.
Yeah,
but that'd be a great trip. It'd be brilliant, wouldn't it?
Geoff, while we've got you, Thomas Partey, how surprised were you that we got him right? We're not having any party puns, not having any of that shenanigans. But how surprised were you when we got him? Because that is such a last-minute deal, and for the fact that we had to go with much like you, Geoff, when you go on holiday, you've got £50 million in cash in a suitcase. Arsenal went to the Spanish FA
50 million lira, Daniel. 50 million lira.
Sorry, Geoff. Yeah, that's more proof that I was right, isn't it? That you corrected me. Yeah, that they went over there, slapped a suitcase full of a filthy lucre on the table and said, right, where is he? We're taking him. How surprised were you that we actually went and did that?
I think they was going to get it over the line. I think they was just trying to push it, as I think I said on the podcast a few weeks before. They was just trying to get him for a cheaper price, that's all. And in the end, they had to really heave it up And I mean, wasn't it great though the way they did it? You know, just dropping the money on La Liga rather than notifying Atleti about it. There's no love lost there between the two clubs, but it's a type of thing that Atleti do all the time. And to be honest with you, it makes a change, Arsenal being like that. And if there's a change in attitude that they are going to be a little bit, you know, tough like that, I'd welcome it, because we have been a little bit soft underbellied over the course of the years, haven't we, the last 20 years or so. So, but you know, I've not seen a lot of him, to be honest with you. But he looked fine when he came on against City. Kept the ball well. He looks tidy. Looks very. He gets about the pitch, doesn't he? Be good to see, you know, how he gets on over the next few weeks. I think he'll settle in now.
Good-looking chap as well. We are, as a club, that are known for having good-looking men at the club, and he has got a look about him, almost a kind of a gladiator, that you're not going to go in there and annoy him, because he's going to give you a look and then he's going to give you a slap. And we saw, didn't we, Josh, at the end of the game that he got a booking. I turned the game off by then, so I don't know at what point during the game he got the booking. Do you remember?
It was for, I think, just a general foul. I can't remember it off the top of my head. It wasn't.
Yeah,
it
was
really
just a general foul.
Yeah, nothing to it. You know, the general ones that Arsenal players get yellow cards for, and other players just get a talking to. One of those. So yeah, I'm sure that will definitely follow him around for the rest of his Arsenal career. That he's a bit of a dirty boy.
Well, the thing is, right? He looks mean, doesn't he? So I would imagine the referee going to be watching him anyway. You know,
he seems like the strong, silent type. That you just kind of stay clear of him, and yeah, he'll get the job done for us as well. For his little cameo, he looked really promising. And is he, you know, 50 million euros worth of a player? Probably, if he solves all our problems, definitely.
Simon, where do you think he's going to fit in? Do you think he's going to be a kind of thing like when Elneny plays in that kind of role, he is there covering the back four, which is what people have been calling out for years? Or do you think there is more to his game that we are going to see him not just protecting the back 4 or 5 or 3, but getting the ball, coming out of the ball, maybe having runs down the field with it? Or will he have a job title of defend the back 4, give the ball to somebody else?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot more to his game than people perhaps give him credit for, or perhaps realise. I mean, when he plays for Ghana, he plays as a sort of number 10 almost.
He's got a great goal record, hasn't he, for them?
Yeah, I think his goal record, I think it's something, might have sort of 10, 15 goals for Ghana. I need to check that, but it's nothing to be shirked at. And in terms of, I think for Atletico, he sort of chipped in, you know, sometimes chips in with 6, 7 goals a season, has assists, and he's a lot more than a person who can sit in front of the back 4. He can 100% do that role, and I think certainly, particularly in big games, I think you will have him in that role in sort of screening the defence and providing some much-needed protection there. But going forward, I mean, as I said, he's a 10 for Ghana. When he was on loan, I think it was at Almeria, he played as sort of a winger, and it's only over time he sort of found this role. But a big thing I think that Arsenal liked about him was his ability to win the ball and then be able to sort of drive up the pitch with it, actually dribble with the ball. I think the team's lost that quite a bit in the past few seasons. They've lost, different roles, obviously, but players like Alexis, Nasri to a degree sort of did it. Even someone like Iwobi, players who would take the ball on and take players on. And they haven't really had that as much as, Xhaka's a good midfielder, Ceballos is a good midfielder, and Nene's a good midfielder. They're not really going to get the ball and skip past 2-3 players simply because they're not physically strong or quick enough to do that. Partey offers that, and I think what Arteta's hoping for now is he's got a player who can help those transitions of getting the ball either by passing or particularly dribbling it and driving from defence to attack. So that I think will be his key role. I think the big games you'll see him as that sort of 6, but he can play in a midfield 3, he can play in a 2, but he will have that licence to get forward. And if you look at his stats for dribbles, assists, goals, he's way ahead of any midfielder we have. So I think that would be something that fans might be surprised by, just how good he is on the ball and how good he is going forward. Because I think even Atletico underestimated how good he can be at that.
I agree with all of that lot. That's my brother, Michael. Mr. Fish, that means my mum is probably watching. Moog, you know that 1.4 kilos of jelly beans you got me that someone left on top of the fridge? I tried to get it down last night. I've got 1.5 kilos of jelly beans all over my kitchen floor. I spent 2 hours picking them up and I still ate some. So that was how I spent last night, people. Josh, where do you want to see... Actually, Geoff put a point in our private chat. He said... more like, who is he going to replace? So who do you think he is going to replace? Or do you think the whole formation, maybe not right away, but in the upcoming months, the formation, do you see it changing? Or do you think that Arteta will still be going 3 at the back? Or will he be going to 4 like we've all presumed for ages? And then if he does, who is dropping out? Because it's got to be El Neni, hasn't it?
I'm assuming it's part of moving to a 4-3-3. And I think the player he's replaced in the squad is an upgrade for Guendouzi. As San's just gone through, the player that we were missing is a player that can drive and carry the ball through midfield. Well, Guendouzi could do that. He was inconsistent as hell and a bit of a twat, but in terms of playing ability, that's how he played. He was carrying the ball through midfield for us. So I think Partey's coming in to replace him in that regard, and it's going to be one of the centre-backs that will be dropping out, I think, from there. But from what we've kind of seen hopefully it unlocks Tierney and we can start seeing him bombing up the left flank again and have Partey and Xhaka either side offering support to drop back into that kind of defensive block that we've created. Because I think we're still going to, when we attack, I think we're still going to have 3 defenders in some way or another. So if that's Bellerin and Tierney going upfield, then we have still seen that, El Neni was dropping into the right side of defence and Xhaka dropping into the left side of defence. I think we'll still see something like that happen. And then just a case of Gabriel and probably still David Luiz at the moment, whilst we haven't got any other fit centre-backs. I think Callum Chambers is the one I'm kind of eyeing up to replace David Luiz in the near future and be the player to take over from him, but as you know, he's still working his way back.
Geoff, we're getting to the point now where we're just going to talk about any of the subjects that we want, but you lot keep bringing up interesting subjects. As a rule, with a football team, when you've got your 11 best players, you always want to replace the weakest player. Now, over the last couple of transfer windows, we've done that really successfully with Partey, with Tierney, with Aubameyang. I think was the start of it, of really upgrading the players that we have. Who would you say in the squad at the moment is the next one we need to look at to be upgrading? Personally, I think it's got to be Bellerin, hasn't it? He either has an okay game where he messes up a few times, or he has a game where he's just completely average the whole time.
To be honest with you, I've been quite impressed with Hector Bellerin this season. I think he's come on. He seems a lot fitter than what he was. I think he's got a little bit of pace back. He's got a lot more confidence. I think confidence was a lot with him. And I've been impressed with him. So I would stick with him. Whereas at the start of the season, I would have thought Cedric was my number one right back. But I'm going to go against that now. I fancy you got to let him roll on with it, because I do think he's come back into form. He's still got to work on his defending. But again, if Mikel could do something with him and just sprinkle a little bit of dust on him so he can defend better. He does get caught. If the ball's over on the other side, people do creep up behind him and stuff like that. As the ball's coming in, you've got to be more aware of his positioning and stuff like that, and the distances. He's got to get them right. I mean, going forward, he's looking better. He does charge forward. He looks a lot better. He's got to create himself a trick once he gets over the halfway line or edging towards the box, because, last season and the season before that, he'd get down there and he wouldn't pass the first man, But as in regard to a replacement, I think the next one out, for me personally, would be Granit Xhaka. I think we just need someone a little bit better than Granit Xhaka in that position. If we're going to be, if we've got any ambitions of winning Champions Leagues or getting into the semis and the finals and, challenging for the Premier League, I don't think Granit Xhaka is a player that would be in any of the other teams around us that are fighting for that. We need someone better. He doesn't... he's a bit slow across the pitch. All right, he's got some good passing, long range passing, but he's not fluent, and I don't think he's a fluent type of player that Mikel Arteta or the likes of Pep would want in their team. So I think he is maybe one that we're going to be looking to replace sooner or later. I think if we had the chance, he'd have replaced him already.
Yeah, Simon. As a general rule, people who are one of our own, be it Wilshere, Ramsey, Bellerin, they tend to get more leeway, don't they? I mean, the amount of stuff that we'd go, it's Ramsey, just give him another chance. Bellerin, from certain parts of the Arsenal fan base, usually the ones that have to be tucked up in bed by Nursey at about 7 p.m. with their prescription, they don't like him, but he's in the same category for me as Wilshere and Ramsey, as in one of our own, and I like to see him do well, but like Josh has just put in the chat, at 25 we lose a yard, and whereas he used to look really good because he had that pace, and if he got in trouble he could use his pace with the ball to get out of it. Now he's having to rely on his defending skills, hasn't he? And I'm not sure that's going to last. Do you? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a really difficult one because, I mean, I'm like the rest of you guys, and I remember when Bellerin came on the scene, and he was so quick, wasn't he? He was absolutely lightning pace. And I think we've got to remember, the severity of the injuries he's had. That serious knee injury, then a lot of knock-ons from that was a lot of muscular problems that can happen when you have a knee injury like that became problems. And I think he admitted it recently in an interview that he's only now just about back to full fitness, and that is because he had the lockdown period where he could get fully fit and have a proper rehab, months off playing football. And I actually think he's been pretty good this season. I, like you, was when in the summer it was, I think it was talked about whether Maitland-Niles was going to go or someone else, and it was Lacazette was talked about, and it was basically, they need to sell one player to generate some funds. He was the one, Bellerin, I thought, yeah, I would sell him and cash in if you could. But I think now he's actually been pretty solid. Yes, I don't think he's been. No, I'm not saying he's been amazing, but I think he's been pretty good there. I think he's been good enough to be certainly the first choice right wing back. I think he's starting to get a bit of pace back. So for me, there's been enough positive signs there to certainly give him the rest of the season and see where he's at. And it falls slightly into the same category as Xhaka, where, I mean, I think Xhaka's a very good player and I really like him, but I can understand what Geoff says where you want to upgrade him and you probably want to upgrade Bellerin. But off the pitch, those are two players who are so vital to that dressing room in the roles that they play. They are really true leaders in a squad that is severely lacking them. I mean, Bellerin was the one at the forefront of a lot of those negotiations over the pay cut. Certainly he was Arsenal's PFA rep, so speaking directly to them when that was all going on and Arsenal players were deciding to do so. I think he's got a big role to play in that, and that's why Arteta was quite keen to keep him around the squad. And if just to finish off on what you were saying to Geoff, in which player would you upgrade? For me, I would upgrade Lacazette, would be the one that I'd want to upgrade personally. I think he's going to have a year left to come the end of the season. I don't think you really want to extend that contract. I think you need a different number 9 there. And for me, if I was looking internally, I would hope that Martinelli could maybe be that number 9, because I think it's a pretty difficult role that you've got to do under Arteta. I think you've got to be very mobile. I think you've got to be tactically astute. But you need to have that ability of finishing in the box. And I think Martinelli's pretty close to that. So I'd be quite interested to see when he comes back if we can have a little look at him before the summer and decide, right, we want to upgrade on Lacazette. Do we sell Lacazette and get someone who's going to, be compete with Martinelli, or do we sell Lacazette and go all out and, try and spend 60, 70 million pounds on a proper number 9? I think that's going to be, for me, where you upgrade in this team.
I think that would be a good idea, because not only are we going to save ourselves £60 million on a striker, but we've seen in years gone by, we've had certain players where they could play left wing, they could attack down the left wing, the right wing, they could be a striker, they could play in the 10. And it looks like Martinelli is the kind of player that can do all of that, much like Henry did. You don't know where on the pitch you're going to go. And if you had a couple of players like that, you'd need 6 defenders to defend against it. And Martinelli is, he's not back. I checked today, he's not back until the end of the year at best. So after that terrible knee injury, but when he does come back, because I remember when he was playing, we were thinking, well, what's his best position? I think his best position is any of the 4 up front.
I think the forwards that we've got though are capable of scoring goals. I think they've shown that in the past. We do need some creativity, everyone knows it. So I would put all the chips on maybe trying to find a creative midfield player if we had the money to spend, rather than the strikers. I'm not sure Eddie's going to get you 30 goals a season at Arsenal. I've got to be honest with you. I like him. He's industrious. He gets about the pitch. He's a bit of a nuisance, and he's okay around the 6-yard box. But I'm not sure he's going to be. I'm not sure he's going to be, an Arsenal first team player again. Like I was saying, that's going to be fighting for honours. But you might as well let Lacazette see out his contract, because I still think he's still got a game in him. He looks a little bit fitter this year as well.
He got 3 and 3, didn't he, for the start of the season?
Yeah, and I do like him. He's quality on the ball. He's definitely quality on the ball. But again, I would try and I'd pump the money into trying to find a creative midfield player, because you know what, even if you got a decent creative midfield player, Danny, you'd get a game yourself, mate. You'd score goals for Arsenal. You're
not wrong, Geoff. I'd get my weight behind the ball and I would be done. I mean, I've got my knees are brand new, very low mileage, never hardly ever been used. My feet, they're also shiny.
Made out of metal, yeah.
Oh, hopefully a robot. That's the future I hope for. Josh, before we just start talking about anything, someone put in there, it may have been Owen, that the problem for Bellerin is getting bugger all help on the right-hand side. I mean, you look at the way Tierney and Saka work together. One go and they fall back and they cover each other. Well, like Alan Davis was saying, or his pod was saying today, that it reminds him a little bit of the Ashley Cole Perez stuff. Bellerin doesn't have that, because Pepe doesn't even support himself, let alone helping to support any other players, does he? Pepe's lost. So
I think looking at the winger and blaming the winger for why Bellerin doesn't get cover isn't how
it's part of it, though, isn't it?
It is. But it's not.
Bellerin loves to make a run forward, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And if he's making a run forward,
that's where we tend to see El Neni drop in to the right to cover on that side. I think that's what we'll see with Partey as well. He'll drop into that kind of nominal right back position. I think the other thing on Bellerin's pace again is just something that I'm not sure. We don't break at speed. I don't think we have for years. We don't play on the counter. We've got one of the best wingers for playing on the counter in Nicolas Pepe. That's how he made his name at Lille, was playing on the counter. But we don't do that. So Bellerin not having pace or not being as quick as he used to be, I don't think is hurting us as much as people may think. And he's still showing that he's got dynamic turns of pace. So remember the goal we scored against Chelsea in the FA Cup final, and he's still doing that same kind of move where he's breaking from deep with the ball, dragging it through the midfield and then laying it off. We're still seeing that, and that is pace being shown by Bellerin. Like, he's not, Usain Bolt down the wing anymore, but he's not being asked to do that job anymore. He's been asked to carry the ball through midfield because he's got the skills that we don't necessarily have elsewhere in the squad. If we then see him, we start saying, yeah, go on the outside of Pepe, fly down there, we'll see that he's got that kind of turn of pace again, and we can truly judge him on it. But in terms of just general creativity, I think I've got quite a lot in Thomas Partey and what Arteta's able to do with him, because I think he's not just like a single piece of the puzzle. He unlocks a lot of other options for us. And that's what I hope to see in the long term. Because the problem is, as we were kind of saying, we're going through a lot of fluxes. We've got a great forward line, but we just can't seem to supply them that well. It's like the flip side. I was watching Brighton versus Palace at the weekend, and Brighton had 20 chances or 20 attempts on goal. Only 3 were on target. Now, if you flip that round to Arsenal, we're only really making 3 chances and three on target. We're very, very low in the number of chances we're making versus conversion. And just looking back at that Brighton team, it reminded me of that kind of days where we had Olivier Giroud on the pitch, or even back in Nicholas Bentner days where we had, the Santis, the Rositskis, the Hlebs, the Ozils, supplying these forward players who were just so impotent in front of goal that we've now got the opposite problem. We're just not creative enough. And as soon as we is Mesut Ozil the answer, which I think is something we'll come on to. I think the answer is still no for that. And it looks like Mikel Arteta potentially agrees with me as well. The fact that he's missed out on both squads for the Europa League and now the Premier League. But Danny, I'll send it back to you for where else we want to go.
I'm washing my hands of pointing you sheep in the right direction. We're going to talk about whatever we want now. Geoff, you put something in our chat, something you want to talk about.
Well, Pepe, how do we see this Nicola Pepe? Because, I mean, I think it's a bit unfair, but he seems to be dragging that big price tag around with him. But if you put that to the side, he's so inconsistent, the lad, isn't he? You know, I mean, you see little glimpses. All right, his dead ball situations, he's quite good at, but his general play, he's doing a lot more defending when he first. Again, maybe he's another one that's learning on the job for the Premier League. But he just disappoints me. I don't know about you boys. He just disappoints me. And again, it's another area of the pitch that I think is so vital, so important, especially when you're trying to create situations up top. Again, his positioning when the ball's over the other side of the pitch, he's meandering out, still out wide, rather than coming inside and trying to pick up something on the back post. You know, when the ball's played in, he still looks like quite a novice with regard to that type of thing. I mean, I don't know. How long we're going to, put up with, the inconsistency? Because I think we do need something a little bit more, more thorough in that area. Simon, what do you reckon? Give me your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he is consistently inconsistent. I think is probably the way to put it. He's so frustrating. I find watching him because I remember watching the FA Cup final, and I think I even put out a tweet being like, this is a £72 million. This is after half an hour. This is a £72 million player. You've got to be expecting more from him. And then suddenly Pepe, he had the goal disallowed, but he came to life. I thought he was fantastic in that final. He was beating players, taking players on. And Arteta has regularly stressed the point, pretty much since he's been in charge, that for Pepe, it's all about consistently delivering at the level that's expected of him. Because there are moments where you watch him and he's brilliant. Beats 2-3 players. Scores a fantastic goal. I think we saw it this season. Was it the West Ham game that he scored in? Or was it the Sheffield United game where he scored it? Came off the bench and he was just electric, and he was so clinical, cutting in from the right, curls it bottom corner, and you're like, wow, this. And the number of times, perhaps it's us in the media being too quick to do it, but we've written this is the Nicola Pepe, the night he came alive. This is the game where he turned the corner. And then it hasn't quite happened. It's just not quite clicked. I don't know. I think there is a player in there. And I think if anyone's going to get it out, it's Arteta. I mean, we saw him work with Sane. We saw him work with Sterling. He knows how to develop these wingers specifically into goal-scoring forwards. And he's clearly no mug. I mean, in France, the season we bought him that summer, he was the second top scorer in France, and he was only beaten by Mbappe. Over 20 league goals. So there's a player in there. I just think it's that consistency. And for me, he's a lot more raw than I thought he was. He's not a £72 million player, 100%. I think if we'd bought him for 30 million, none of us would probably be having any sort of debates or questions about it. Probably going, yeah, he's pretty good, he does his job. But when he cost 72 million, as Geoff said, that is a price tag around his neck. And I don't know, you might be able to, you'll have probably more insight than me, Josh, but are we seeing the player that we saw in France at the moment, or are we not seeing that player because he hasn't settled? Or I don't know. For me, he's very raw and inconsistent, and I didn't think Arsenal were buying that when they brought him in.
I think we're not playing him as his greatest strength. I think that's the big thing. I think, ironically, the manager that he would work best under is Emery, because he was wanting us to play kind of on a counter-attack. So sit deep, break quickly, at pace. Pepe, Aubameyang, one other, probably Saka, all flying forward and quickly hitting a team on the break. And that's what you got from Nicolas Pepe at Lille. Lille were very much a kind of very quick, explosive team. We don't do that. We sit. And again, if we do try and do that, we're also playing against it's only 3 or 4 teams that will play in the league that will play with a high back line and then won't change it afterwards as well. I think it's going to be like Man City, Liverpool, Brighton might change it. Southampton, Hasenhüttl seems pretty set that irrespective of how the game's going, he's going to stick with a high line. So I think that's one of the bigger problems, that we're not giving, when Pepe's getting the ball, we're asking him to beat 1 or 2 players, which he was normally doing in Lille by using his pace. But because he's not got that space, because he's getting the ball, 25, 30 yards outside of goal, he's got to use the kind of skill and passing to get past a player. And I don't think he's really got that consistency in his locker to really unlock a defence. So I think that's where the biggest problem is. I say the other thing about the number of goals he scored, if I'm right in saying 9 out of those 20 were penalties. He was their penalty taker for Lille. And that's one of the other things that, he was still very creative, but it was in a team that is, breaking fast. And the way your kind of assist is probably just playing, one defender out of the game by just playing a square ball across to the back post for a striker to come onto. That's where I'd kind of see him. And again, set piece deliveries, those are the other things that kind of, I'm not going to say pad stats because it's unfair to say that, taking a corner and being good at taking corners isn't a useful attribute to have in a player. But if you're taking all the corners, you always look in fantasy football, don't you? Just bring it onto that. You check to see who the corner takers are for each team because there's a chance they're going to get an assist if they've got decent centre-backs or any decent player in the air. That's the other thing of Pepe's game that I think we didn't necessarily look at. And when you've got, the YouTube generation, we're going to look at a player. Every single goal that you'd see from Pepe is him, going at 100 miles an hour down the wing with a ball from either over the top or slid between the centre-back and the full-back, and he's coming onto it. There's all the space in the world to think about what he's going to do and then make his decision. He doesn't get that. I'm not going to say in the Premier League because there are very good counter-attacking sides out there. But he doesn't get that choice in the Arteta system because our build-up is very slow, very methodical. Pepe just doesn't. He's got to think a bit more. A bit like Theo Walcott, I suppose, in that regard. That if you gave him too much.
What frustrates me with him, because he's got bags of pace, and he's got plenty of coffee house tricks, I call them, right? But he'll breeze past 2 or 3 players that are over on that side. But instead of being a little bit more direct when he gets past them, he'll turn back and he'll want to beat him again. It's like 5-a-side football. He's got to learn, right? I would like him to get him into a situation where he's isolated 1 against 1, right? Because if he could get the confidence, right, to get his head down, go 1 against 1. He's got great tricks. You don't know what side he's going to go as a defender, right? So he can go both sides of you. If you can isolate him, get him 1 against 1, get to the byline, or maybe cut inside himself. But he doesn't. He'll turn and he'll try and beat everybody again. And it's so frustrating. If you could just correct that, then it could create there's an end product to it. Because at the moment, it's happening every now and again. That's all I think about it.
Yeah, I agree, Geoff. It's that problem that he's so inconsistent when he beats a man as well. None of our other forward players almost want to run with him. Because, they don't know what he's going to do with the ball. He don't know himself, does he? Yeah, exactly. So they're going to, even Aubameyang, I think if he knew that Pepe was going to beat his man and then there'd be a through ball option for him, Aubameyang would be making that run. He's been around the block enough as a striker to know when an opportunity is going to open. But no one seems to be doing that when Pepe's got the ball. And is it because they just don't know what he's going to do? He's just got that inconsistency that, he might be an absolute world beater, or that 20-yard lung-busting run that you've just made, you've got to turn around and run 40 because he's turned it over, and you've got to now go and track the fullback that's bombing upfield.
I think actually him training and playing with Willian will actually be a very good thing for Pepe and for a lot of wingers in that squad, because I think Willian's been okay. I think he was very good against Fulham. Since then he's plateaued a bit. But what Willian consistently offers is consistency and reliability with the ball. You basically know if you give it to Willian, you're probably going to get it back. He's not going to waste it. He's not going to give the ball away. He's very efficient. He's tactically very efficient. Does exactly what Arteta wants and really fits the role and system. And I think certainly for Pepe, but even the likes of Reece Nelson, Martinelli when he comes back, I think they will really benefit from seeing what Willian does at his age. And you know, Geoff is exactly right there. He does that thing where he beats a man and then he beats him again, partly because he's probably loving the game and enjoying beating his man. But if he's more efficient and beats him and delivers the ball, he's going to be so much more productive. And I remember Ferguson had the same thing when Cristiano Ronaldo came to Man United. He used to infuriate him, and Van Nistelrooy was exactly the same. That Ronaldo would beat players and then beat them again and beat them again, 2, 3, 4, 5 step overs rather than one step over and deliver. And I think Pepe needs a bit of that in his game, where he's a bit more direct, a bit more ruthless. And I think actually learning from Willian could be a really, really good thing for him, because Willian is efficient, he is experienced, and maybe a bit of that nous can rub off on Pepe.
Yeah, Emmanuel from Cape Town says, to be honest, Pepe also seems to have a shy personality. He doesn't have that Robin mentality. When there is a free kick, you can see the others take the ball off him, which we saw the other night when it was Luiz, Pepe and Willian standing over the ball. And my choice for free kicks would have been Willian, Pepe, Luiz. But because Luiz is probably the voice of them, and Willian's only just joined, Luiz said, I'll do this. Whereas someone should have said to Luiz, when was the last time you had a shot on target, you cheeky monkey? Get back. And then one of those two, depending on which side of the goal they want to put it, should have decided who was going to take it. I know he did take one of those two, did take one a little bit later, and I think it went bottom left-hand corner, and the goalie palmed it away. But he does seem a bloke that is so lacking in confidence. But me and Nick did the live show after the game, and I said to him, how much would you think that how much would you have paid for Pepe to be happy with him at this moment? He said 30 million. I said about 20 million. Josh, what do you reckon? Yeah. I know one of you already covered it, but
after the season he had on the way getting to, Lille and the teams that were in for him, because Barcelona were interested. I think it's a 35, 40 million, maybe. But again, we don't know the size. Well, Simon might know exactly how that 72 million is built up, on whether or not, 10 million of that is a Ballon d'Or clause, which we might never get paid.
We never get all the details, do we?
No, absolutely. So it might be lower, it might be higher. Who knows? But yeah, in terms of something that I'd be fairly comfortable if we'd paid for him, because I think at the time it was a coup that we got him as well, which seems surprising now when you see, what he was doing, what he's doing for us now.
I'm scarred by Theo Walcott in the 10 years that we more or less wasted with him. I mean, I'm being a little bit harsh on the lad. He scored a lot of goals for us.
Theo was 14 million, wasn't he, or something like that? If we'd lose that back of the sofa now, I wouldn't care.
Exactly, yeah. So, but I don't want to go through all that where, you keep on trying and trying and trying. And I don't think Mikel's going to do that. I think he'll give him a right good go at it. Then if not, he'll just, I think he'll let him go and he'll replace him. But, like Simon was saying, if he could just be a little bit more direct. And Willian, it's a great point, because Willian is, if there's one player that's always direct, is Willian. You've all, all them Chelsea games where you just see him running through on his own, So hopefully he'll learn a lesson from it.
On a more uplifting point, what have we made of Gabriel's start? Because if we think we've overpaid for Pepe, which we probably have, we've given Lille too much money. I think we've probably made a bit of it back with Gabriel.
It's 24 million.
Yeah, and I think, I know there was a lot of links around him in the summer with a lot of clubs, partly because his agent was quite happy to tout him round to any club who was interested in sniffing at him. But, there was a proper, certainly United, Napoli, PSG a bit, we're all in for him. And as has been the case with a lot of transfers this summer, Edu and Arteta played a key role in convincing him that Arsenal was the right club to come to. But I mean, I can't remember the last time Arsenal had that physically a dominating centre back and come in and perform so quickly. It reminds me a bit of when Kolo Touré sort of burst on the scene, and this guy, just so strong and so powerful. And then that first game, I remember the Fulham game this season, and admittedly that playing against Kamara is not the greatest litmus test for how good a centre back you're going to be, but he absolutely bullied him one-on-one, and it was a bit like, oh, hang on a minute, this is quite rare. We've seen Arsenal centre back doing that, and I think for me that Carabao Cup game at Liverpool, I thought was one of his best performances. I thought he was fantastic. Again at City this weekend, I thought he was really good. Sheffield United, fantastic. And my favourite thing about him is every single sort of set piece, free kick, anything like corners, he seems to win just every one of them. And I think it is part of the thing that George, the new set piece guy's got, where Gabriel is basically free, and it's like, right, you guys mark up and just let him go and win the ball with a header. And he seems to, 9 times out of the 10, he is the guy being that dominating voice. And I've just been completely blown away by how good he is. He's played 5 Premier League games, and I think he's fantastic. I don't know what you guys think, but for me, that is the best piece of business we'll do all summer.
I'm again, it's another position that I'm very, very guarded on, because I can just remember other centre-backs having a good start, like Johan Giroud, even Mustafi when he came in had a good maybe 6 months holding. We thought he was the bargain of the century, and even Callum Chambers. So, let's just hope that he's not in that honeymoon period that the previous ones have been through, and, he drops a ball and, makes a mess of it. But, again, I've mentioned this before, especially in that position, a vital position, they're all going to make mistakes. But it's how you deal with the mistake, and how if you drop a clanger, some people, it just ruins them and they can't come back from it. He looks really, really strong mentally. He's good on the ball. He's tidy. He's that left-footed centre back option that I think you need it, for the angles and everything else. So I'm hoping he turns into a good player. If he carries on the way he is, I think he'll be a bargain.
Yeah, I think another player that you list in, centre backs, I think he kind of reminds me of Gabriel, Thomas Vermaelen as well. Left footed,
spot on.
He's got all of those kind of things. What kind of impact he made? He scored 2 goals in his first 10 games as well. I think it's one of those, super composed on the ball. Again, he was another player that was completely dominant next to a bit of a shaky. Fuck's sake, Danny, you've done it again. Like a shaky centre back partner, because I think he came in next to Koscielny, if I remember rightly. And yeah, we've got him next to not Gabriel. Next to David Luiz, who I think we all think is a bit shaky. I'm trying to avoid it now. I'm trying to avoid it, Danny. But you do excellently to distract me. Yeah.
A child.
He is a child, but he knows how to get me.
I think Gabriel as well. I think the thing that I'm probably getting slightly carried away about excitement. But the thing I do like is the price tag as well. I mean, if you look at what centre backs go for these days, I mean, City paid 45 million for Ake, and Gabriel was 25 million.
It's amazing.
So I think in that climate, I think it is a really good piece of business. I agree with you guys where we just need to be wary of not putting too much pressure on him. I think he's made a great start, and it's an interesting one as well because he costs less than what we paid for William Saliba, who was £28 million. We still haven't seen play for us yet, and I don't know. I mean, Geoff, you all over the years have seen players struggle to set us up. I mean, should we be panicking that he hasn't played, or do we need to cut him some slack because he's a 19-year-old kid who's living in England? His mother's passed away. He's obviously going through a lot in his life, and maybe we just need to be patient.
It's a big turnover, isn't it? Coming from the French league and being so young into London, and like I was saying a little while ago with regard to how if he does make a ricket, how's he gonna cope with recovering from that? If he's got too much on his plate already, listen, there's plenty of time with him. There's obviously a player there because I've not seen too much of him. Josh, no doubt, has. He can tell you a lot more about it than me. But there's obviously a player there. There's a lot of clubs interested in him beforehand, and he's highly rated. Let's just take our time with him. We're not in no hurry. I know, it was maybe this time last year that we was all waiting, hoping that we could get him in by Christmas to help our defensive problems at the time. Well, it just shows you the reason why. Maybe he wasn't. He was injured at the time, no doubt. But we was just looking for that. He was going to be our saviour. Even the start of this season shows you if they're not ready, they're not ready, and we just got to run with it. And hopefully, it'll. I don't know. I think we've got to keep him now, haven't we? So he'll join the under 23s and stuff like that. That'll be good grounding for him. It won't hurt him.
Yeah, I think there's a huge thing that we've also not missing necessarily, but just outside of the game for Saliba as well. The fact he lost his mum, and I think losing your mum at the age of 19, I think at any age, losing your mother is a huge thing. But at that age, when you're not even in the country as well, when it happens during a global pandemic, that's got to be difficult for anybody. And
True.
I think we just got to take our time. Yeah, fine. We've spent a lot of money on him, but there's one of the big things about Arsenal is we are bigger than just football. And I think looking after the player is the top priority. And if that means he's going to spend a season in the under 23s just to get his head right, then so be it. And he's still in the Premier League squad as well, because fortunately he's 19. He doesn't count towards the squad places. I think the only reason he's missing from the Europa League is because he hasn't been with us. I think he might have been out for a season. I think we needed him to be with us for 2 seasons to name him on the B list. And then otherwise, we could have picked him. We could have played him in that as well. But if we were also looking to potentially let him out on loan, it's a spot wasted in the Europa League. But there's plenty of opportunities this season to get decent fixtures and decent appearances for him. I think we're still playing in even the Checker Trade Trophy as well, where we've seen the like of Aziz show his stuff. And that's, against proper League 1, League 2 sides, he'll get a proper grounding in English football if he plays a couple of those fixtures, even towards like the finals and stuff like that. So, as I say, and as Geoff said as well, which I think is another really pertinent point, is when young defenders make mistakes, if it's for Arsenal, it's going to be a high-profile mistake. It's how they cope with that as well. And if we don't need to put him in the situation where he's not the strongest at the moment to be coping with mistakes in high-profile situations, then there's no point doing it. We've got the likes of Holding, Chambers is coming back, Mustafi is available, David Luiz is there as well. We've got plenty of cover at right centre-back. We can just ease him back in when he's ready. And I think that's the only thing we should be looking at. Trying to force him back in would just not be the right way of doing things.
I think that point Geoff made there about, making an error and you reinforce it, Josh, I think is absolutely spot on, because you can kill it. You're not going to make a career in 1 or 2 games as a 19-year-old, but as a 19-year-old centre-back, you can really, you can knock a career back a good few months by having an absolute ricket of a game. And I think it is very different to if this was, an 18, 19-year-old forward, a bit like Martinelli was last season, where he came in, suddenly was great in pre-season, maybe learn about, and when they're a forward like that, you can throw them in because, go and make something happen, go and change the game. But when you're playing centre-back, for a team like Arsenal, the scrutiny on that is absolutely huge. And there's, probably can count on one hand the number of teenage centre-backs Arsenal have had, regular centre-backs. Even in the Premier League, you can look throughout the Premier League, and there's very few. I can remember maybe the likes of Phil Jones and Chris Smalling starting as teenagers for sort of Premier League teams, and look how that's turned out. So I think really it was a difficult decision from Arsenal to do. And I would wonder sometimes, thinking about it, would someone like Wenger have perhaps just played him and said, you're a young kid, go and play? But I think Arsenal have taken the brave decision by not playing him, by not registering him for the Europa League. And they could have easily loaned him out. There's plenty of Championship clubs who are interested in doing it, but they wanted to make sure it was the right move and the right place. And in the end, I think they've decided, look, be here, get used to the environment, and there is no rush. I mean, we've got so many centre-backs, we haven't even registered Sokratis. So I think it was a brave thing to do, given the pressure from fans and the hype. We're all excited, but just to say, look, let's calm down and let's take our time. And as you say, in the long run, I think it could prove to be a very wise move.
I think we should move on from that and talk about the Wenger book. Geoff, you went to meet Wenger, didn't you? He asked you along, and you wanted some of your advice. And you went and met him. So what did you do, and how did it go?
No, London Palladium, wasn't it, a couple of weeks ago? A cold, I think it was a Tuesday night. I can't remember. It might have been a Monday night. It's a cold, rainy Monday evening. There was social distancing there, but it seemed like it was full up. I was really surprised when I walked into the theatre, and I think every third and fourth seat or something was obviously vacant. But it was very busy in there, and I didn't expect to see how busy it was. But it worked. Everyone behaved themselves, apart from all the singing and stuff like that. There was a great the applause and the singing that when he came on the stage was unbelievable. And Wenger is just he's just Arsene Wenger, isn't he? I think he's a great gentleman. I think he's a great gentleman in and out of sport, in and out of the game of football. But he just spoke about the Arsenal. He loves the Arsenal. There's no doubt about it. He's as much an Arsenal fan as any of us over the 20-odd years that he's been here. And it was just he's done 50, like Simon said, he might have done 50 interviews out of it. So everyone knows he just went through the same stuff more or less live. And it was a good night. It was a really good night. And I just thought that I couldn't miss it. It was one of those moments where I wanted to be there. His first proper interview live in front of an audience full of Arsenal fans. It was a really, really good night. And I'm so pleased I went there.
I know Chris isn't much of a reader like I'm not, and he's listened to the audio book. Josh, what have you done? Read the book or listened to the book or just coloured it in like I did?
I listened to it. I think Chris is actually reading it.
What?
I think that's how he's learning how to read. Because he stepped up from the Hungry Caterpillar and he's gone straight to Wenger's autobiography. But yeah, no, I listened to it whilst working. And I wasn't expecting something where he was going to kind of reveal all.
Which is why I'm not interested.
Yeah. But I still felt disappointed that there wasn't many nuggets of information in there. I think there were some pointed things, and you might be able to read things between the lines of how he was feeling, especially towards the end game or end days of his time at Arsenal. I think where he was saying certain people on the board weren't necessarily on board with what he was doing. I don't know who it is pointed at, but there seems to be something pointed in there. But otherwise, I think it was interesting from those people who are interested about Arsene Wenger rather than the salacious rumours around Arsenal Football Club.
I'm actually sorry, Simon. I'm actually still listening. I'm about a third of the way through the audio book, and I don't know because I've not obviously I haven't got a copy of the actual book, but I think it would be better to read it than listen to the audio book because he's not very good, narrating it. It just doesn't sound right. It's not flowing, and he doesn't really reveal too much, which I'm disappointed about as well. And you know me, I love Arsene Wenger, but I was even from what I've heard about the book, I'm a little bit disappointed with it as well. I think everyone thought it, like you said, Josh, I thought there'd have been a few little nuggets in there that we'd get our teeth into and, have a little fight about over the course of the time. But there's nothing in there really, nothing that we don't already know. That's a little bit disappointing. But I think everyone should go and buy it anyway to give the old fella a few quid. Not that he needs it.
No, I say
I think
his own Arsenal podcast, won't he, with the amount of times he's been on, and now he's a fan.
I think the number of times he said in press conferences, though, I'll put it in my book, or when he didn't want to talk about something, and I think he has, he did generally write this book himself. He wrote this, and I think he has. I think he's missed having it ghostwritten with a journalist who would have nagged and pushed for that bit more detail to be like, no, I need a bit more on this. Tell me a bit more about this. I think when he's writing it himself, he's probably quite naturally, hasn't gone into as much detail as he would, because you don't when you're telling a story as much. You need someone questioning you and saying, and I actually think the best thing has been the interviews he's done around the book. When he's spoken, and he did a great one in The Guardian today with Donald McRae, who's probably one of the best journalists for interviewing people. But I think he just missed having someone writing the book with him and nagging for a bit more detail, because it's good, but it's not got the real insight that we wanted from a book like this.
Ornstein had a good interview with him. I don't know whether you caught up with that. Ornstein, he was the one. He went a little bit nearer the bone than most of the other guys had. But you know what? To be honest with you, I think. Well, I did anyway. I knew that Arsene wasn't going to be the person to throw people under the bus willy-nilly. He's not a Mourinho. He's got a little bit more class than that. But because of that, we were still all expecting it, and it never really happened, did it? So it's a bit disappointing.
To not even mention Mourinho once in the entire book is amazing.
That's brilliant. I love it. Not to give him the airspace.
Not even anything at all. But
that's the thing, that it's more about the notable absentees that seem to have come out of it. The fact he doesn't mention Mourinho. He also never mentions Unai Emery either. Does mention Mikel Arteta, but not Unai. And that, I don't know about that one, whether or not it's too raw. It does sound like he had very much a huge breakaway from Arsenal, and probably didn't even watch us under Emery at that point, as it was just
him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, publishers have been wanting him to write a book for years and years, and he was offered. I mean, certainly before we left Arsenal, he was being offered near seven-figure sums to do a book. And he's taken his time to do it, and he's obviously done it in the way he wanted, with him writing it. Fair play to him, and I'm sure it will sell immensely well. But I think if you read the Fergie books, which he was ghostwritten with Paul Hayward, who's a journalist at the Daily Telegraph, and contrast this with Wenger, I think you'll see. I think someone could have prized a bit more out of Arsene, and we could have got the juicy stuff we wanted. But it was Wenger, being classy, and not throwing barbs like that. And he was like that, wasn't he, Wenger? That wasn't his style to go and knife someone, was it? So it's probably what we should expect from Arsene.
Yeah, and as you say, I think it was in the interviews for the book is where you got more information, because you had those people putting him on the spot. Another one I'd say is the one with Totally Football, with James Richardson, Julian Laurent, and I can't think who the third one was. It might have been James Hawkastle. I can't remember though. And I thought that was a really interesting one, because again, they were pushing him on the questions that we wanted answers to, like, why did you take Pires off in the Champions League final? You had that thing. I think Silas was trying to say that if he'd had a ghostwriter, they would have pushed him on that and said, go into this, because that's the interesting story.
I think the thing with Arsene as well is you could listen to him talk about anything. I think I don't know if you guys saw him on Graham Norton, but he's brilliant on that, and he could write a book just about his ideas for football and how the history of the game. I find him so interesting to listen to, and I thought on Graham Norton, I thought he was fantastic. With Dawn, chewing the fat with Dawn French and Freddie Flintoff. I thought he was brilliant, and it did make me miss him a bit. I do think there are few people as interesting to listen to as Arsene Wenger, and I'm jealous of Geoff going the other night, because I know Wenger would have been great on stage there and given the fans a good value for money.
Right, we've got 11 minutes left, and then we'll have done an hour and a half. Josh, how long do you reckon it would take you to do the questions? And have we got time to have a quick chat about Ozil before we do the questions?
Let's have a quick chat about Ozil before we do the questions, because I think it's what the people would want, and I think it's one of the questions anyway. From Luca, who says, "Are you sick of the Mesut Ozil debate?" Well, buckle up, Luca, because you're getting 5 minutes at least on Mesut Ozil. And I suppose we should also include Sokratis in this as well, because they have both been excluded from both squads as well. But yeah, Si, do you want to come in first on the Mesut Ozil thing? And do you have, I think one of the big things is the timeline of events that seems to have been conflated with what's happened with Mesut that's led to this decision where he's not made either squad.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one with those. So, I mean, obviously he played all the games up until March, didn't he? And then since the restart, we've not seen him at all. He has publicly and privately stated he's not going anywhere. He wants to get back in the team. And I think there's been a lot of, speculation, rumours going around at why he's not in the team. Is it because he wouldn't take a pay cut? I kind of feel for me, I do believe, I think Arteta and Edu, that it is footballing reasons. I know he was playing before then, but I just look at the team now and the way it operates, and I don't see how Ozil fits into it, partly from a formation viewpoint of a 3-4-3, but also I just think the way it works, and Wenger touched on a bit in one of his interviews saying, I don't know if he's that sort of player's gone from the modern era. And in terms of the time of events, well, the options of getting rid of him this summer were pretty limited. There were only sort of 2 concrete interests, and that was from clubs in Qatar and Saudi Arabia. Other than that, there wasn't any genuine interest. Ozil wasn't interested in going to either Qatar or Saudi Arabia, so that was off the table. And then Edu explained when he did an interview with the club the other week that both players were sat down face to face and told, look, you're not going to be in either of these squads. And when it came out that they weren't in the Europa squad, it was pretty clear then that they weren't going to be in the Premier League squad. And it wasn't going to be a case of, look, you're in one. You guys miss out. 2 players miss out on one and 2 players miss out on the other. No, it was always going to be 2 players missing out of both squads. And the decision was made thereof. And now they're both going to have to wait until January. They're lucky it's only a short break until the next window. I think it's 10 weeks until that window opens. I think Sokratis, out of the 2, is more likely to get a move. I'm pretty sure he would get one in January. I think he was close to getting one in the summer. And Ozil, I can't see how you shift him, to be honest. I think the only dream scenario is from January, he can talk to clubs and get a pre-contract agreement with a foreign club. And I think the only one you can hope is say, oh, look, you've agreed that. You could come to some sort of agreement where he moves to that club early. But it really doesn't feel like he has any intention to leave before his contract ends. And perhaps rightfully so, because that's what the club agreed to pay him. So it's a difficult situation. It's got really messy. And I think, I don't know, the fans might think the same as the club and think now that Ozil's out of the squad, do we stop talking about him? I don't know.
The question is, Simon, will you be mentioning it in any press conferences?
I don't think so. There was a lot of heat, wasn't there, after that Leicester game, which I wasn't actually at. And I think legitimately so. I think Arteta was pushed on that. Maybe he was pushed too much. But I think when Ozil wasn't in that Carabao Cup squad, I think that was the alarm bells when it was like, okay, right, he's not even in, he's not in that squad at all. That is it. If he's not playing in the 4th-rate competition, then he's got to be going. And I don't think since then Ozil's really come up. I think he's maybe came up in the press conference before this squad was going to be announced, and I think he'll probably come up this week. And then I think after that, I can't see how you bring him up anymore because he's not part of the group. Simple as that. So Arsenal probably will get their way from that. But we've seen the PR war has rumbled on with the whole Gunnosaurus and all that. And I don't know. I think it's just really messy situation and one that I think for all parties needs to be put to bed.
Yeah, Geoff, what are your thoughts on the Mesut Ozil and Sokratis situations?
It's It's a shit show, isn't it, mate? Really, it's just it's tainted his Arsenal career. Now, listen, I don't know, and we don't really know what's gone on. There's a lot of politics, maybe, that's occurred, but I do honestly, in my opinion, I do think that if Arteta wanted to play him, it would be in the team. I don't think he suits what Arteta is doing at the moment. I mean, I said it many times over the course of the years that he's been at Arsenal. If we haven't got the ball, and if he's not on the ball, he's really basically a passenger. He doesn't really. If he's not affecting the game, it's like playing with 10 men. And I know people throw stats at me, and he covers a lot of ground, etc. But you listen, we can all run around like a chicken with no head. But it's the positions you put yourself in, and when you get yourself put in them positions defensively, do you put your foot in? You know, he's not the type of player that would scare you if you was attacking him. You understand me? If he was defending against you 1-against-1, I think any player would fancy their chances, because I don't think listen, he's not made that way. He is a creator. He has been a fantastic footballer. He's won the lot, but I do think the game has now passed him by. He's the wrong side of 30, and what disappoints me the most is he's got plenty of money, right? And it's not his fault that Arsenal said they was going to pay him 300 or 350 or whatever it is with appearances and stuff like that. We offered him the contract. He signed it. He's entitled to the money, right? We'd most probably give him the money anyway to go and play somewhere else. That's what grates me. And I think at the end of the day, once it's over, I'm not sure he's going to come back from it and play at the same level again in an elite level like the Premier League or a top level of the Spanish League or wherever, because this year out, at this age in his life, it's not going to do him any good. And I'm disappointed he never took some money or took a little bit less or just had an agreement with somebody somewhere where he could go and play a decent quality game of football for someone and see his career out, because it can't be down to the money. No way in the world.
No, I don't think it's down to that at all for just money. I think one of the things is he probably enjoys living in London. And I think that's one of the things that we're not, it's being kind of rather understated. You know, we saw him being the victim of, an attempted assault with Kolasinac as well. And you would have thought if you were on the receiving end of that and you would have moved if you weren't then trusting of the city and your surroundings, you'd have looked to have moved out pretty swiftly after that. But he stayed. And I can't see another London club coming in for him. I mean, if he really wants to wind Arsenal up and he really hates us, he'll go to Spurs after his contract's run out. That will show you if he's being truly like malicious. But I wonder about some of the political things that have been raised as well, that it's because of how he was outspoken from an Arsenal perspective about the issue in China. I can't go into full details because I'm just not an expert on that subject and just do it in injustice. But he made those comments in December 2019. And I think that's something that when I was saying that the timeline's getting conflated, that people were saying he was dropped because of comments then. He played plenty of games, as Simon said, up until March. And maybe, as you say, the club didn't back him. I think if Wenger was in the hot seat at that point, he'd have dealt with the situation very differently than Mikel Arteta did. But Arteta was also only a week into his, life as an actual full-blown manager. He wasn't going to be saying anything other than towing a line, a corporate line, just making sure he's doing things that are safe, because you know what? He's got quite a lot on his plate just coming into Arsenal in general. And I think that's just one of the big things around it is there seems to be, I think Travis in the chat has put it perfectly, is there's a group of supporters that are Ozil supporters rather than Arsenal supporters. And he's almost being kind of disrespectful to Ozil's being disrespectful to his supporters that just want to see him play games because they know what he can do. And yeah, the supporters that follow Ozil and not Arsenal are the ones that are shouting loudest, for sure.
I'm sure he could have gone to somewhere like West Ham or something like that and had a good game of football. They played decent football.
Problem with West Ham is they had a sensible transfer window because we had loads of players they could have bought from us. Sokratis could have gone there, Mustafi could have gone there. Every other time they would have bought him, but they went stupid and sensible and bought a decent midfielder, got another striker in. It was infuriating.
Geoff, you compare it to like Bale and James at Real Madrid, who were on huge money, and they both managed to find a way to get out of their clubs and to get playing. And Ozil hasn't, from what we know, worked in the same way to be able to get out and find a move. I just think it's a shame for all parties involved because I like everyone else, can remember, when Ozil was signed by Arsenal. I think even it might have been when Geoff might have been one of those who sort of broke the news that we were getting Ozil, and everyone went crazy. All the fans outside the stadium, mobbing the reporters on Sky, and he was brilliant for 3-4 years. He was fantastic, and I do agree now. A bit like Koscielny with how he left to go to Bordeaux and the whole thing where he was filmed, taking off the Arsenal shirt and having the Bordeaux one. I do think his legacy has really, really been tainted now at Arsenal. And it's a shame because he did bring a lot of joy to fans at one point.
The only thing I'd add to all of this lot, apart from what you've already said, I think this all goes back to his time with Germany. The last 6 games he played for Germany, they lost 4. They only beat Saudi Arabia 2-1 and Sweden 2-1. And he had that disastrous 2018 World Cup where they lost 1-0 to Mexico, beat Sweden, lost 2-0 to South Korea. That was his last game for Germany. And then they had all the falling out with Germany. And then the next season he comes back to Arsenal and he only gets 2 assists all season, which is what he got 5 goals. The season after that, he only got 1 assist and 1 goal in the Premier League. And then I think if you look at it all back and trace it, it's probably going to come back to a lot of things changed in his life. He got married, fell out with some of the Arsenal fans, fell out with Germany. I mean, he's got to feel, you look back in the history of modern German football and he's one of their best players. And then for people to be telling him that he's not really German, that he's Turkish and all this other stuff, a hell of a lot of stuff. I mean, we think that he's an old wise man. When all that was happening, he was only 28, 29. He's still a young man, and for so much stuff, upheaval to happen in your life as a footballer back then, like Geoff was saying, it's just such a shame to see it all happen. And if you follow me on Twitter, I will do anything to wind up the Ozilistas because they're a bunch of morons. I mean, there's one who's got that petition to get him to Arsenal, to force Arsenal to register him and play him. I mean, that's just to the nth degree of how pathetic so many Ozil fans are. And when he leaves, they'll all fuck off back to supporting Real Madrid, which is going to be nothing but good because, and there's only one person who's lost out of all of this lot, and that's going to be Ozil, because if things worked out for him, he could still be running our midfield at the age of 34, 35, because he never relied on pace. He did when he was at Real Madrid, he'd play out wide. But for us, he could control that midfield. He wasn't really that massively injury prone, and he could be domineering, doing all that a lot for years to come. So the only person who's really lost out is him, Josh. So, questions? You're muted.
I know. Well, it's terrible. You've gone a bit blurry as well, Danny. But
sorry,
it's all right. Sympathy. But yes, and I say thank you, Luca, for your question on are you sick of the Mesut Ozil debate. I think.
So we did 10 minutes on one question.
Exactly. So I think for that, I'm sure the chat box will tell us if people are sick of the Mesut Ozil debate. But as Simon has said, he's never going to ask a question ever again about Mesut Ozil in a press conference, and therefore there'll never be a story about it ever again.
Never, ever.
His famous last words.
And I agree with Pepe. I think when his contract is up with Arsenal, he'll retire. And I see you agree to that too, Josh.
Yeah, I think he will.
Let's speed through these questions. Simon's going to have Mrs. Collins kicking him in the bum if he doesn't go to bed soon.
Exactly. First question, we will go to aforementioned Simon Collins. Let's go for the one from Jackosaurus TV from our Twitch. So if you could nuke one club out of existence, who would it be?
Jesus Christ. I mean, the obvious answer would be Tottenham, but I absolutely love the North London derby and the rivalry with Spurs. So I don't think it could be them.
And their videos when they're 3-0 up.
Oh, you know, there's this amazing surge in fans filming themselves watching matches, probably because of COVID-19. But oh god, they were amazing, those ones there. And the Lanzini thing made me think of our beloved Steve, God bless him. But when that went in, I did think he'd be sat up there absolutely roaring with laughter. One couple of Newcastle assistants. Probably go Stoke, I think. Just so many bad memories of going there. It's a pain getting there. We've never had good games there. I'd go for Stoke, I think.
Excellent. Geoff, question for you. I'm going to go from this one from Melvin Marks from our Twitter. How long do you think it will take Arteta to have the confidence to play the same 11 week after week?
No, I just don't think that's never going to happen, mate, because of the just so many games that we got. But I get what he's saying. It's going to be tough for him, isn't it? Because he's not got what he wants there at the moment. I don't think he thinks he's got what he wants there. So I think it might take maybe another 18 months or another 3 windows before you're going to be knocking on the door and thinking, "Come on, mate, you got to pull up some trees now because you've got your team. You've had plenty of time to bed everybody in, and everyone's got how you want to play. You've got to give him a little bit of time. 18 months."
This week, Josh, was Klopp's 5th year anniversary as manager of Liverpool. And how long did it take him to make Liverpool good? 3 years?
It was for his 5th anniversary. They've decided to write a petition to get Virgil van Dijk. What is it? They already decided if he's getting cremated or if it's a burial. I'm not sure if that's confirmed yet or not. Question from let's go Matt L. Roberts, and I'm going to go to Simon on this. After previous Hale End players coming and setting at the English leagues and other competitions alight over the last couple of years, who would be next? Matt's pick is Aziz.
Yeah, I do agree. Aziz certainly looks like the real deal. I think, particularly from the games I've seen this season, or the highlights I've seen in the games this season, he looks like the one. I mean, the one I would have been excited about is Bellerin, who doesn't sound like he's going to sign a new deal, and I think he's going to leave for free. But from people I spoke to at the club, they think he's, in terms of level of ability, put him up there with Eddie and Reece and all that lot. I'm not sure whether. I don't know. I'm not sure. They can't get him agreed to sign a new deal. I think he knows he can probably go play week in, week out, certainly in the Championship. Wouldn't surprise me if he went to Brentford. He would be the one that I would be really excited about. But of those who's probably going to stay and play, I think Aziz is the standout.
Nice. I saw a couple of clips of him playing in the Carabao Cup, not Carabao Cup, the other one, Checkatrade Trophy, and he looked very good in that game. Where else am I going to go for? It's my fault for skipping them. Danny, I'm going to go to you for this one. Actually, no, we can all have it. Everybody. Screw it. Danny, you can start, though. Question from PG Nez. What would you consider a successful season for Arsenal?
Looking at the way all the other teams are, top 4. I think if we can make 4th, don't care about the cups, don't care about all 3 of them. They can all go to hell. Go for that 4th place, because as much as I hate Champions League football, as much as I hate European football, I like the leagues, but that 4th place and Arteta and that squad and the confidence and the new breed of everything at Arsenal, I think that 4th place will be 2 years ahead of schedule. And if we can get that, we will look back, those years when we barely lost the league to Leicester. And we look back at that and go, oh, that was so close. If we don't get 4th place this season, or maybe even 3rd, in the next couple of years when all those other teams have strengthened massively, we'll look back at this season and go, God, that's the year we could have done it.
Yeah, Geoff,
you know what? I'd go all out for that Europa League this year. We need that. We need a European trophy that gets us into the champion. It does, doesn't it? It qualifies us for the Champions League. That's still in. I would love to be confident enough to say we get into the top 4, but I don't know. I really don't know. I still think that I would accept top 6. I want top 4, but I think a Europa League or an FA Cup and the top 6. I think that would be a successful season for his second full season.
So Simon, finally.
Yeah, top 4 or winning the Europa League would be success. Finishing 5th, I think, would be par and be a pass. But yeah, if he makes top 4 or wins the Europa League, I think that's a success.
Nice. Where are we going to go next? Let's go, Danny, as I think you've seen this question for the longest and may have prepared something for this compared to the other ones. People, it's a question from your namesake, Daniel, in our Discord. We've got a Discord, people. It's like WhatsApp for virgins. Arsenal Twitter seems to be talking about their top 5 Emirates era players. Screw the positivity. Who are the drizzling shits of the Emirates era? Who are our worst players?
The South Korean, we can't even remember his name. Absolute waste of time and effort. There's going to be... I'm just going to stick with one. And that because we haven't got time to list 5. I've got a whole more, but yeah, the South Korean whose name I can't remember, that we bought another dodgy deal, £7 million for Monaco this season. They got relegated.
That was the one that was it in Wenger's
Park Chu-yang, apparently, according to 4 million Oza.
That they didn't believe that the agent was actually, it was Arsenal on the phone because he thought it was a wind-up that we were interested in it. Anyway, I'm sure that was in his book or I've read it somewhere. Who knows? People can just write things in front of me. And I'm like, I nearly said Ron Jeremy. That's not who I mean. Ron Burgundy. It's a very different person there. I see Simon's eyes have lit up. Well, eyebrows are raised on those two. Getting the wrong way around. Yeah, just put anything on there and I'll read it. Get on with it. Okay. Let's go from Phil Macker in the YouTube. Simon, could we just clone Saka and play Saka version 2 down the right-hand side?
I mean that would be ideal, wouldn't it? I think the interesting with Saka, just tagging on to this, is where we think he's going to end up playing. I don't know what you guys quickly think, what position you think his best role will be, but for me, I liked how we finished the Sheffield United game, which was Aubameyang as the 9, Willian as the 10, Saka left wing, and Pepe right wing. I think that's Saka's best position personally. I think left wing is where we'll see him long term.
Yeah, I really liked that setup that we had there with him and Willian interchanging as well in the midfield. I think that was perfect for his development. I'll go finally because Danny said I've been going on for too long. And we also covered Mesut Ozil. Sorry, Luca. Geoff, final question for you from Alfredo from the Twitter. Is there a reason Arteta does not want to deploy Aubameyang through the middle?
Well, you know what? He's been so effective on that left-hand side with scoring the goals and making the runs from out to in that I think it's very difficult now to dislodge him from that. He's been quite disappointed in the last few games, hasn't he? Since he signed his contract, funny enough. But no, he's still got plenty of time. I do prefer him out there. He played a lot out there for Dortmund, didn't he? I remember him. And again, you then try, you can fit Lacazette in there as well. And I think that's maybe what he's been trying to do. To fit all of them in together, him, Pepe and Lacazette. So maybe that's the reason why, I think, to be honest with you.
We may be forgotten, but if you do remember when we had our one good season under Emery, that we actually had Aubameyang and Lacazette in a front two. We played that sort of 3-4-1-2. Do you remember Ramsey played as the 10 and those two? And I think that actually got the best out of both of them, but I don't think we'll ever see that again. But that was I think that was when we got the best of Aubameyang through the middle and the best of Lacazette, but I don't think we'll ever have them as a front two again.
No, I think because we've got Pepe as a winger, I think he's the one that kind of means that we're going to be playing a front three. Anyway, Danny, I will pass back over to you.
Cheers, Muchley. Right, a little bit of housekeeping before we go. Thank you very much to Unique79 for your donation. Thank you very much to our YouTube members who have paid as little as 99p or a little bit more. And they get not much for it, apart from they're going to go on our website in the ABW Executive Toilet. That's where your names are going to go. Nick Wilson, God, he changed his name. J. Rob, Bill Butler, Yemi Fash, our very own Corey, Michael Harniman, and Mike Hertz, who a couple of them are in the chat at the moment. And also thanks to a couple of new Twitch people that have subbed, Berg Gunner and Clancy FFS. So I think that last one sounds like the kind of person that Nick might know. Right. Thank you to everybody in the chat. You have all been brilliant. Thank you very much to Travis, who has been keeping me busy. I did a 1 hour and 1 bit hour Twitch only show building up to this, where it's just me sitting there falling asleep and Travis keeping me busy. And also Michael in Sweden was there. So also thank you very much to Simon. You tonight have been spectacular, darling.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been great being on.
Say sorry to Mrs. Quiff for us.
I will, and I apologise for my Windows 7 laptop. I'm hoping to get Windows 8 next time. So.
Well, tell you what, if that's not worth tuning in for, I don't know what is. Thank you, Josh, for doing the questions and just generally being entertaining, Josh, and not too dark, and definitely no mystic, Josh.
Yeah, no, I can't predict anything anymore now. It's all out the window. That's it.
Good. Awful. And Geoff. We all saw Geoff before the show started. He's a lovely looking gentleman, and we're both in our 50s. We had a good old chat about the good old days, didn't we, Geoff?
We did indeed, Daniel. We did indeed. I don't know, it feels like my 750th performance for the ABW tonight, to be honest with you.
Oh dear,
it's been a while.
You're not far off. You started doing podcasts with me in 2012, and next year is 2021. Ho!
You've gone grey, and I've gone greyer, Dano.
Oh, it's great. And you're on next week with me and Raj, and you never know, we might be at a Winkle FK to come on with us as well. That would be great.
Well, he might be able to sell his YouTube channel, so why not get him on?
Top secret stuff. Right. Thank you to everybody in the chat, everybody on Facebook, everybody on Twitch, everybody in our Discord, everybody at all the places that we put our stink. Thank you for watching. This has been a Bergkamp Wonderland. We will see you on Thursday after the show. It's either going to be Josh and me or Josh and possibly Ellis. We're not sure yet. Looking at Josh's face, that's news to him. And we will be back on Sunday. Hopefully, the John Welsh is going to have himself a wash, give himself a good scrub, and he might be on the show with me. So you never know. We will see you all later. Thank you very much. Goodbye.